Whoop, the dynamic duo!
Hey guys, we're back. We're continuing the discussions. We've already raised a million topics. I'm Franz.
I'm Kevin. Welcome back to the Batcave and Avengers Tower, everyone.
So, Kevin, let me ask you this. In light of what we just talked about, there's several things we could talk about. One of the things we could talk about is Kevin Feige and some of the decisions that are being made on the Marvel side of things. We just talked about James Gunn on the DC side of things. We can also talk about the expectations of the fans when it comes to superhero movies. What do they want? Like, I haven't figured out that answer. We could also talk about what is a good superhero movie? What do you look for in a superhero movie? What qualifies to you as a great superhero movie? And so on and so forth. So what do you want to talk about?
Please, partner, I open the floor
Oh
to
man.
you. And because you are our Marvel aficionado, give me your impressions of what Mr. Feige is currently doing right and or wrong.
That's a great question. That's a great question because I do think that Mr. Feige is doing things both right and wrong. I think that the danger that I'm seeing with Mr. Feige is that he allowed the MCU to be too complacent in some places. In other words, there was a wave of success with Marvel stuff that it seemed like a juggernaut. And because it was such a non-fail juggernaut, it was like, we can do anything and we can get away with it. And because of that, there was a lack of caring. But I have to be careful with some of the material. And that's what I have to remind myself of, is that it's easy for us to sometimes paint things with a big brush and say, oh, Kevin Feige sucks, or Kevin Feige is the greatest. I don't want to go there because that's not true. Some of the stuff that was produced, like Wakanda Forever, to me, is a master freaking piece, okay? We have to acknowledge that, and you have to give credit to that because so much care is in that movie, so much attention is in that movie that to not acknowledge it and to say that it's the same thing as Love and Thunder is it would be a crime. Having said that, he also produced Love and Thunder. And so we have those basically two we have those two contrasts of what Kevin Feige has been doing with the MCU. And the juggernaut is rolling. Love and Thunder made almost $1 billion, $700 million. Let's not forget that. But so the juggernaut is rolling, but it doesn't mean you can do anything that you want. And when you do anything that you want, ultimately what happens is you lose your audience, and pretty soon you produce stuff that nobody cares about. Now there isn't, I've got that standing bet with my brother Ralph. There isn't really a fear of that for the near future because the Fantastic Four are coming, the X-Men are coming, and so on and so forth, and people are going to be clamoring for those no matter what came before. But for the long run of it, if you keep producing crap, eventually you're going to lose out. One of the interesting things that's happening in Marvel, and I'm sure that you're aware of it, is that it seems, I don't know if it's Kevin Feige or above, but the decision has been made that we need to slow down. We need to slow down. And there seems to have been a recognition that some of the material that's being produced isn't on the level of quality that they would like it to be. There's been a whole controversy about the CGI, the special effects crews, and how Disney pays them or does not pay them. There's been all kinds of things going on, actors being paid or not being paid. And so there seems to be a decision to say, let's slow down and let's get this right. The question, and this is going to be the next topic of conversation, is what does that mean? Let's get it right. Marvel has a greater license than DC does because Marvel has a bigger fan base than DC. And the Marvel fan base is anti-DC. So when DC produces something of quality, which I say BVS and Justice League, I love those movies, they get criticism, just in my opinion, just because of that political hatred, Marvel versus DC type of nonsense. Marvel doesn't have as much of that, but they do have an anti-inclusivity crowd that's coming for them hard. That's coming for them hard. Um, Marvel made the decision, Disney made the decision to be inclusive. Um, and there's a crowd out there that's coming in and hating and wishing for the demise and working hard. Now they're losing, but they're so dogmatic, they're so crazy that if a movie makes $950 million, they consider it a failure because it didn't make $1 billion. Mm. That's how stupid and ridiculous that crowd has gotten. And what's fascinating, though, is that they start talking about, oh, this movie's a failure, and it sort of picks up steam, and it starts to become described on the internet as, oh, Black Panther is a failure. Multiverse of Madness is a failure. These movies are making among the top 10, Kevin, top 10 biggest box office movies of all time, Kevin. Listen, as much as I hate Love and Thunder, it's in the top 10, top 20 of the biggest money making of all time. And people are interpreting it as failure. That's just cognitive dissonance. That's just stupidity. That's just ridiculousness. So Disney and Kevin Feige have a hot potato on their hands too. How do I handle this situation? I agree with the pared down approach, but I'm telling you now, Kevin, and I'm going to end on this note. Kevin Feige has a tremendous responsibility to deliver both the Fantastic Four and the X-Men well. And if you do not get the Fantastic Four, you will not deliver the Fantastic Four well. And if you do not get the X-Men, you will not deliver them well. And that could bring about the ultimate doom of the genre and of the medium from a cinematic point of view, and actually from a comic book point of view as well. So here's the thing, Kevin. The juice of that material comes from the comics, comes from the source material, but not just any source material. It comes from the original. I am right now currently reading the John Byrne run of the Fantastic Four, and that's a great run. But the only reason it's great, and I'm saying great, it's because it harkens back to the DC, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby era, because John Byrne understood what the Fantastic Four is all about. So if you don't get that juice in that marrow, you're going to get it wrong. Same thing is true for the X-Men. X-Men is not just a regular franchise. You need to understand the material, and it's not just about mutant hatred and representation of race relations. It's not just that. It's also superhero costume, fun, delivery, action. So that's my opinion on the Kevin Feige situation.
Absolutely, positively brilliant. And if I may interject and add, for everything that you said on the right and wrong sides of this issue, as it relates to Marvel, and you may completely disagree with me with what I'm about to say, I think storytelling-wise, one of the things that has gotten in Marvel's way over the last 10 years now, and it's been more than 10 when you think about it, which is a phenomenal thing for them to be patted on the back for.
Absolutely.
But storytelling-wise, and I've gone back and I've looked at a lot of the movies and all that kind of thing. And of course, as you just indicated, we've seen Wakanda Forever. Well, we're both looking forward to Quantum Mania and on down the line, regardless of whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, we're both looking forward to it. The fact is, and what I'm about to say is something that I think is hurting both companies, meaning Marvel and DC. And because Marvel is a little bit more established in the movie line with this, I think one of the problems that both of them are having is that all of these multiverse, otherworld, this is not Earth 1.
Yes.
This is Earth 125. This is Earth 500.
Yes.
This is Earth 750. They need both companies.
Yes.
Both of them need to stop that.
Yes. Amen.
There is a primary reason why that needs to be stopped. Your average moviegoer that's going to go into a theater and buy a ticket, okay, and have a seat with the popcorn and the candy and the whole bit, they know nothing about the 616 universe. They know nothing about the Kang universe.
Yes.
They don't know anything about Darkseid's apocalypse. Okay? I'm not saying that these things can't be told as stories. So before you all start throwing tomatoes at the dynamic duo, listen to what I'm saying. I think that they need to go back, both companies, and especially Marvel, and reestablish the world of right here, Earth 1, and do the thing from there. There is too much of this. We need to focus on all of these multiple timelines and skewing all of this stuff because your stories are getting lost within that.
I'm agree.
And the average person, as I said, that is going to sit in a movie theater, when they're sitting there and you hear somebody talking about Reed Richards from 616 or Superman from Earth 57, they don't know what's going on. They have no idea what that means. And you're losing your audience in the process. So within that same step of losing your audience, you're losing your revenue.
Absolutely.
That's how it's happening. Because unless that person is forced to, they're not going to go into a Toys R Us and buy a Spider-Man figure for a kid. Especially if it says Spider-Man from Multiverse, but they're just looking for Spider-Man. They're not looking for a Gwen Stacy figure from the Gwen Stacy comic books, because to them,
Spider-Gwen.
right, Spider-Gwen doesn't exist in the way that they look at the characters. So, as I said, even though the primary thing that I'm saying is about Marvel, to me, this is on both sides. Both of them need to get a grip on this. In terms of DC, there is a way of reestablishing that universe and getting started again without damaging everything. And it's the same thing with Marvel. But they've got to sit down and talk about it.
Listen, I applaud you. It is absolutely genius because you're absolutely correct. One of the biggest mistakes that both Marvel and DC are making is this whole It's fascinating thing to me. It's fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me because here's what happened. Here's the history of it. The history of it is that you had DC Comics from back in the day. And DC had a varied characters. And at one point, I don't know exactly what the history is, but we were able to get, Earth 1, Earth 2, Superman this, old Superman, young Superman, super dog, super this, super that. And we lost a coherence with the universe. We did. Mm-hmm. And Marvel comes in, and Marvel offers them the antithesis of that by saying we have a strong linear connective universe that we're going to take relatively seriously. We're not going to have a talking super dog. We're not going to have Superman pulling the moon out of the way of a missile. We're not going to have these types of storylines. We're going to create some sort of coherence within the universe that we have. Mm-hmm. Here's the reality of it. Marvel shut up. Whether you're a DC fan or a Marvel fan, that's not the irrelevancy. The relevancy, what's accurate, what we need to be aware of is that when Marvel was being Marvel, it was kicking DC's ass, okay? Sales, popularity, acceptance, love, Marvel became the juggernaut. And DC, who was the bigger brother, became the little brother following Marvel's footsteps. And we had the conversation with Marv Wolfman, and he hated Crisis on Infinite Earths because it took away with so many universes. But I didn't want to say it too much was it Roy Thomas or Marv Wolfman? I forget which one hated it, but I didn't want to say it too much to him. But here's a fact. The fact of the matter is that DC only started to become relevant when it started to marvelize its universe. And it marvelized its universe by having Crisis on Infinite Earths saying, hey, we can't have this level of confusion anymore. We need to pare it down into one single universe. It is only then that DC became relatively on par with Marvel. It was still a step behind, but relatively on par with Marvel with its comic books and its popularity. And people started to say, that's the fact. So we know, therefore, that having a multiverse dilutes the material to such an extent that it hurts the revenues of that genre, of that material. We know that. So what does Marvel do? Marvel, within the comics, goes into a multiverse situation. It embraces a multiverse situation. And DC, being the little brother, follows suit. So that now, is it Earth 52? Is it Marvel 2? We don't know. And that has had a direct impact on the comic book industry, where sales are way, way, way lower than what they used to be before. There's other factors, of course, but sales are way lower. So what does freaking the MCU do after establishing, what does the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, do after establishing a strong timeline, just like they did back in the day? It goes, hey, we're rolling a juggernaut. Let's open up the multiverse. Mm-hmm. And we may not feel the effect of it now. This is what my brother doesn't understand. These things take a long time before the effect is felt. I used to think it was a 2-year thing. It's not. I used to think it was a 5-year thing. It's not. I used to think it was a 10-year thing. It's not. The popularity of this material is so strong that it takes a long time for that ship to turn. Mm-hmm. But what both he and I are concerned about is that, yeah, it is turning. It is going to eventually turn if you don't correct it. And going into the multiverse situation that you just talked about absolutely dilutes the characters. And if you dilute the character, it means I don't care as much. So let's say, for example, I'm a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man fan. It means I don't care so much about Tom Holland. Let's say you're a Tom Holland Spider-Man fan. Well, it means that you don't care so much about somebody else becomes Spider-Man. We lost what it meant to be a fan of something. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if it's a generational thing, because I think people of our generation makes that mistake too sometimes. But dude, Kevin, when we loved Spider-Man, we loved Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. We didn't love the idea of a spider-like powered person. We loved Spider-Man. We knew Peter Parker and his relationship with Gwen Stacy, and we loved that character. We liked that character more than we liked another character. That's why Spider-Man became more popular. Same thing for Superman, same thing for Batman. That's why not just any vigilante type character, anti-hero, was as popular as Batman. There were specific reasons why we like Batman more than we like Nighthawk. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Very specific reasons. Now, there is no Batman. There is no Spoon. There is just a Batman. There's an idea of a Batman. And well, while the fandom is still reacting to it as if it is Batman, the reality is that when we bump into it, we realize, wait, that we don't quite love that Batman as much as this Batman. It's Batman. We love that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And it's the same thing that's happening with Tom Holland Spider-Man. It makes $1 billion+. But are we as connected to it as we are with the Peter Parker Spider-Man? No. Does it carry the same connection to our hearts? And when you talk to people, you realize it just doesn't. And so, yeah, I agree with you about the multiverse situation, and I couldn't agree with you more on it. And that's a mistake that they need to rectify. And this whole low-key timeline nonsense, there's, the Kang, you know what? I just realized something. What the Kang thing should be about, the phase 4, whatever next phase is coming up, it should be about Crisis on Infinite Earth. Mm-hmm. Bring it to one timeline. And let's stop with the multiple versions of the same character nonsense. And let's keep it as real as possible. Let's keep it as connected to the original source materials as we can.
Are you aware that DC has ended the New 52 book line, it's
Of,
it's over.
of course they did. For the same reason that Marvel had to end the Ultimate timeline. By the way, here's the thing about that, Kevin. When they started the Ultimate timeline, and I said, no, this is not the way. I got killed. We go, oh no, Ultimate is we need to do with the 626. You know, we need to get rid of that. That's not good enough. The Ultimate timeline. When DC does the 52, oh, we need to fix Superman because he can't have red shorts and yellow belts and da 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 da. And it's like, Joe, just wait. But it took over a decade for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It took over a decade for that realization to come to fruition. So yeah, it's not surprising, of course, that DC, of course, they had to end it. They had to, because it's crap, relatively speaking. Relatively speaking.
I love you, man.
Dude, I mean, let me tell you something. Here's what people don't understand. And sadly, even some of the producers, some of the greats don't get that. It's not easy to create magic. It's not easy to create a beloved, timeless character. It's not easy to make a Spider-Man. If you think it is, go ahead, knock yourself out. So when you create a Spider-Man or a Superman or a Batman, you need to respect it. You need to respect the factors that made it as special as it is. And once you start chipping away at those factors, you no longer have Spider-Man, Superman, or Batman. And therefore, you become victim to all the other characters that are being created and that are dying by the minute. So forgive me for my rant, man. I just
no. You're asking for my forgiveness? Are you kidding? But I don't even know what else needs to be said. I think between the two of us, we honestly covered it.
I think we did. So, guys, join us for the next topic of conversation, which is also relevant, which is also very important, which is to say, what the hell do you want? Like, what do you want? What is a good movie to you?